about every 2 weeks, the Trudeau government has a scandal of sufficient magnitude under normal circumstances to collapse a competent government, and yet nothing happens.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. In today's top stories, we've got Justin Trudeau rocking the boat here in Canada once again. So he imposed 100% EV tariffs a week ago, as well as 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel, and now China is retaliating. We've also got Jordan Peterson absolutely obliterating Justin Trudeau with an interview with John Rustad, the Conservative leader of BC, who's now leading the polls in British Columbia here over the NDP. So first off, China announces plans to start anti-dumping investigation into Canadian cola imports. Get your diapers ready because things are not good here in Canada. So you can see here 25% tariff on aluminum steel, 100% tariff on EVs. They haven't come up with exact numbers, but it looks like they're going to be putting a tariff on canola, and 75% of canola is sent to China. So this doesn't bode well for Canada here, especially since they're harvesting, the farmers of Canada are harvesting canola as we speak right now. Leave it up to Justin Trudeau just to further hurt the farmers of Canada. It's also very bizarre, I mentioned in the last episode, that Justin Trudeau would impose a tariff on EVs, considering they have the plan to make all cars in Canada EVs by 2035. So why would you put tariffs on electric vehicles that are really cheap from China? Those vehicles would be the cheapest one, I think it was $18,000. It really makes no sense, but it really doesn't matter because once Pierre Poilievre comes in, he's going to be changing everything, getting rid of all this crap that Trudeau's done anyways. Moving on here, we've got this clip of Justin Trudeau and Sophie Trudeau. This is from a while ago, but just look at the exchange here. This is really interesting. As Tokyo Rosie says here, Trudeau has always been a delusional narcissist. This old clip shows that Sophie tried to be the grounding force in Trudeau's life. It's probably bang on, I'd say. This clip starts off here. It says, "Be humble." She's whispering it in his ear.
I was put on this planet to do this. This is I fight and I win. It's what I'm good at. No, Mr. Galad.
You fight from a good place.
What's
Just the way he says that too. He's like, "That's what I'm good at. I fight and I win." And she's like, okay, honey. I fight and I win. I take all the lunch kids' money." I mean, this man hasn't changed in 20 years. This guy's been the same probably since he was born. He's a spoiled rich kid that shouldn't be running our country. The psycho thinks he has some divine mandate. Holy puke. His marriage failed because he... I'm not reading that. Oh God, he thinks he's the chosen one. Be humble, she says. She's also like, yeah, she's not exactly humble either. Next up, we got this cringe video posted by Stephen Guilbeault. Oh, this is bad. This is a student food school program. You got greasy Trudeau here.
We have served over 20,000 free meals to our students over the last year.
Look at this guy nodding right away. He's like so fake.
I'm able to perform better in my classes. I'm able to focus more in my classes. I don't have to worry about feeling hungry during the day because I have more than enough to eat during lunch.
A national...
Is this something to celebrate? She's like, oh, I got more than enough to eat because my family can't afford to feed me. That's what this ad says. This is how bad it is in Canada. They have to run ads that they can feed some kids in schools because the parents can't afford it.
School food program. A program that'll feed up to 400,000 kids more every year and save the average two-child family about $800 a year in grocery bills.
Yeah, this is ridiculous, and this is embarrassing. Stephen, then why is it your NDP Liberal coalition taxing the parents into poverty? You are the cause and the effect is starving families through your overtaxation. Which tax are you eliminating this week, and which tax next week, and so on? Do something useful for once. Using kids as political tool, that's even low for the Liberals. Exactly. Next up, we got this Justin Trudeau getting heckled as he steps out of a building here in Ottawa. It's good to see a lot of Canadians there waiting for him just to make sure he knows how much he's loved around this country. So short clip there, you can see his body language too. Once he comes out, he's getting heckled before he even steps down the steps here.
Trudeau, you suck!
He's already got a smug face while he's stepping out, like sour face Trudeau. Look at him, so sour. He's not even out the door yet. He's not even down the stairs. And like he does, you notice here, he's not doing his wave anymore. Sour face Trudeau. Well done, people. Next up, we've got Jordan Peterson absolutely destroying Trudeau in a couple clips here. He's interviewing John Rustad, the Conservative leader of BC, who is now leading in the polls in British Columbia ahead of David Eby. That's no surprise because David Eby and his policies on the nose candy and the hard candy and all the other candy is destroying British Columbia. It's become a zombie land over here. First off, he talks about Trudeau and his scandals and how it's just ridiculous because there's so many of them and they just go unpunished.
Well, it seems to me that in Canada right now, and I truly believe this, that there are so many things happening that at a level that's actually scandalous that no one can keep up. I've really watched this with Trudeau because it's something remarkable for me to see. Like about every 2 weeks, the Trudeau government has a scandal of sufficient magnitude under normal circumstances to collapse a competent government, and yet nothing happens. And then the next scandal comes along.
It's because people have lost faith in reporting because there's so much information out there. So actually, one of the things I want to do is change politics forever in British Columbia. And what I want to do is we have what's called freedom of information requests, right? You have all this information, which is public information. And if you want it, you have to pay a certain amount of money and you can apply to access it. And months later, you might get some redacted document, right, that you get. I'm going to change that. I'm going to get rid of freedom of information requests because I'm going to make all of the information that can be made public.
Like they did in Lithuania.
The job of the freedom of information officer should be to say what can't be made public.
Right.
Give the people the facts.
Yeah.
Give them the information. And then it's no longer politicians that are giving spin, but politicians that are responding to the facts.
I love this idea. I've been saying this for a while on the channel here. There should be everything on Canada.com. We should be able to see how much Stephen Guilbeault spent on lunch, charging it to the taxpayer. This should be available right now. So I like that John's pushing this here. He hopefully puts this in place, and he wins the election here in October 19th this year.
And you can judge political parties based on facts as opposed to based on whatever spin they're giving. Try to build some confidence and a little bit, restore some of that confidence back in government and government institutions that's being lost and continually eroded, particularly because of what's going on with the politics of the left.
We got another clip here talking about the amount of people perishing in BC and the reasons why, the healthcare system being completely broken, all thanks to David Eby and the NDP.
We have free healthcare in Canada. It's not free because we pay taxes, but it's also not free in another very fundamental way, which is that dying waiting is not free. Wondering, having, for example, when my daughter needed an ankle replacement when she was 16, the waiting list was 3 years. And she was essentially walking around at that point on 2 broken legs. It's like 3 years, eh? That's not 3 years, that's death. Because there's no way you walk around on 2 broken legs for 3 years and make it through that. That doesn't happen to people. And so the waiting list approach to cost is not effective. And so in Canada now we're in a situation where you can't get the care you need often. You can't even get on a waiting list to see a specialist that would provide that care. And you can't have private insurance to cover you, and you can't pay for it. So the rationing system in Canada for healthcare is you get to die waiting. Yeah. Right, that's not free.
Well, in British Columbia, we don't actually collect these stats because government likes to operate in secret, which is a whole different topic. But looking at the national stats, we have the number of people dying in British Columbia today on a daily basis waiting for diagnostic services or surgery is comparable to the number of people who are dying from the opioid crisis. And nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Yeah. Like I find that completely unacceptable.
Say that again.
The number of people who are dying on a waiting list for diagnostic services and surgery in British Columbia is comparable to the number of people who are dying of overdose deaths in British Columbia because of the opioid crisis.
Right.
It's absolutely appalling. And really the only solutions here in Canada, which you see more and more now, are people going to other countries and paying for surgeries. They go to Mexico, they go to Indonesia, Hong Kong, wherever, and they just pay to get things done because they need to get fixed. They can't be waiting around 3 years for a surgery that they're in the waiting list for, or they can't even get on the waiting list. And these people are dying waiting for these problems, these scans to be done. So essentially, what are we even paying for with our taxes if you can't get the care that you need? If you you guys want to check out this interview, it's an hour and 50 minutes long. It's a good interview. I'll link it up down below. That's all the clips I'm going to show from it here, but it's good stuff. Thank you, Jordan, for having John on. This province needs to wake up. Yeah, I'm glad that he brought John Rustad on here, because this is a big platform Jordan Peterson has, and to really push him forward going towards the election here and just getting more eyes on what's going on in BC is great. My mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and still waited over a month to start any treatment in BC. Thankfully, she made it now as a remission, but not everyone is so lucky. I will vote for him because he's able to have a 2-hour non-scripted conversation and not sound like an idiot. I mean, at this point, which idiot would you be talking about? Justin Trudeau, David Eby, you can pick a whole bunch of them. I'm on Vancouver Island, can't wait to vote against the NDP. Me too. Next up, we got this clip here. It says, just a normal day on Granville Street in downtown Vancouver. So Granville Street, just to give everyone a little bit of backstory here, if you're not familiar with Vancouver, I lived there for like almost 20 years. This is the street that was like the big street back in the day in the 1900s that they built as a main street, one of the main streets. And it slowly just became more and more popular as it had a lot of shops, it had a lot of bars and restaurants, and a lot of clubs and all sorts of nightlife happening on there. And it slowly is just withered and withered. Now there's some high-end stores and restaurants there, but there's just a lot of zombies. There's lots of zombies there. And today, this is what we have on Granville Street. There's no audio in this. There's a guy just knocked out. This guy's on top of an ambulance. There's another guy. This says guy on top of ambulance. Eventually notice his friend and this word, I'm not going to say that. That one. Him back to life. Happy ending. I don't know what's going on here, man. Every clip from Vancouver now just looks like Zombieland. This guy's like, the guy's on top of the ambulance. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Why is there a guy on top of the ambulance? Why? We got this posted by Justin Trudeau's ego. Yesterday, I released a video explaining that we're fixing Canada the only way we know how, by raising the pride flag. So you can see they raise a pride flag here.
Making things better for Canadians.
I'm so obsessed with gender and forcing S-word on children that I've forgotten Canadians are actually struggling with real-life issues.
We do as Liberals is focused making things better for Canadians.
Trudeau, it's time to go. Next up, we got a clip here where Pierre Poilievre is asked about the homeless encampments in Canada, and he really goes deep into this. I've never seen him speak at this length to this, and this guy sounds like a prime minister. He's ready.
What's your plan to deal with the homeless crisis in the country?
Build the homes. There's the economic problem and there's the social problem. The economic problem is actually very simple. Politicians love to say it's a very complex problem. It's not a complex problem. It's a hard problem, but it's not a complex one. We don't have enough homes. We have the fewest homes per capita of any G7 country. We have fewer homes per capita than we did 10 years ago. Our population's been growing by 3%, while our housing stock grows by 1%. So, we built fewer homes last year than we built in 1972, when our population was half of what it is now. It's just very simple. If you have an island with 10 homes and 20 families, you're going to have a lot of homeless people on that island. So we have to accelerate home building. Home building is extremely profitable if you can get a permit. So there's nothing stopping, there's no market failure preventing builders from building homes. What's stopping them is that it takes 7 or 8 years to get a permit. There are these horrendous fees. There's tremendous confusion and complexity about what is allowed and what's not allowed. South of the border, you can get a permit in 4 or 5 weeks and get building. And that's why when you go to a border town, you go to Niagara, Ontario, it costs $600,000-$700,000 for a very small home. And on the south, it's $150,000, $175,000 for the same home, 15 minutes apart. So we need to remove the bureaucracy to speed up home building, and that will be the #1 priority of my government when I get elected. That's the economic side. On the social side, let's face it, there's a drug addiction problem. When people get hooked on opioids, it's very hard to maintain, to pay rent and to stay housed. And then ultimately it becomes easier to use drugs when you live in a tent encampment. So we need to provide treatment and recovery services that get people off drugs and into decent housing. Like in British Columbia, they went to the tent encampments in the worst ones in the world, downtown East Side, and they actually gave people housing. Many of them didn't use it. because their drug addiction kept them on the street. That's where they could resupply their addiction. It's where they could do the small-time petty theft to fund their addictions. So what you actually need to do in that case is get the people off the drugs so that they can get into a healthy life, pay their rent, and feed their families.
Yeah, he's bang on there. And when people get put into those housing situations, they have to adhere to a bunch of rules. They have to stay clean. They have to check in. There's curfews. And those people, they're just too hooked. They won't do that. They'll just rather stay on the street and just, I mean, I have another video I can't show you where there's literally a guy, poking himself with a pokey right in the street there, and then it's just kind of going wacko. And that's what we have. We need to nip this in the bud. This situation has to be solved in this country. You can't just have zombies everywhere. He's bang on too with the housing thing. We need to build more houses, and he's already mentioned it in another video. We have to reduce the immigration. The levels have to be in line with how many people we have coming in, how many people we have. We have way too many people. It's time for a bunch of the foreign students, foreign workers to go home, and it's time for us to build more homes and reduce immigration and solve the problem in this country. With all the crown land not being used, create new communities for those with the addiction of disabilities, treatment centers using the latest healing technologies available. Let the social service, housing, and health programs fund them. BC's building supportive housing across the province. We need a lot more recovery centers for our healthcare workers who are overtaxed, taking care of immigrants pouring into the country, and we're not getting the additional funding to deal with it. Moving over to my group here, let's check out what memes we've got today. Justin Trudeau tops list of Canada's worst prime minister, says new poll. Have you ever woken up at 2 a.m. and thought to yourself, 1974, the Ice Age cometh. Yeah. Where's that Ice Age? New popular toy coming just in time for Christmas. Mr. Potato Head holding a sack of potatoes. Oh, God. Trudeau's packing the Senate with woke activists. This is a maneuver to block the next democratically elected federal government. This is slimy. There's so many of these independent senators he's putting in there, which are all just, like woke senators, woke liberal senators. It's a broken system. Beaches in Canada when Stephen Harper was PM. Beaches in Canada with Justin Trudeau's PM. You don't know the half of it. There's just a video that I saw here of quite literally filming one of these events. I can't show you guys, but I'll huff, I'll puff, and I'll huff, and I'll puff. Look at this. Who made this? Jagmeet Wolf. Don't worry, it's all he does. Liberal NDP supply confidence agreement. This is hilarious. You're going to lose, and it's not even going to be close. Our subtle approach was proven ineffective. There you have it. You now got Jordan Peterson essentially platforming John Rustad. I think this election here in BC coming on the October 19th this year, provincial one, is going to be a landslide win. The support's going to keep going up with him platforming him. There's a lot of people who are going to find out about what's going on here, just the policies and all that stuff. Put a face to John Rustad. This is going to start a cascading effect for every other election here that's going to come forward by elections up until next year when Trudeau finally has to go to the polls when he's going to get crushed.